The future belongs to those who learn more skills and combine them in creative ways. That is a quote from Robert Greene, an American author who wrote books like The 48 Laws of Power and 33 Strategies of War. And now that I've made one video about woodworking, I think I'm ready for the next step. I got this lovely lathe from my uncle, and I'm not rolling in dollars. Maybe dimes. So I don't have the money to buy big new tools, but I have determination, and I'm gonna make this work if it kills me. The first thing that I need to do is remove this incredibly stable and high quality base. In order to do that, I'm going to completely disassemble the lathe, remove the tailstock, remove the headstock, which was much easier said than done. The pulley shaft had been stuck in these bearings for probably decades, but once I got that out, I just had to beat the hell out of one of the bearings that just didn't want to remove itself from the shaft. Now that everything is apart, I'm able to start cleaning layers of paint off this, and let me tell you, there were a few. From what I could tell, there were 3 layers: red, white, and a blue-gray, which seems to be the original color based off that it's what's on the underside. I found that these red nylon wheels were good at sanding off the paint without removing the rough texture of the cast iron that I wanted to keep. And these are like $5 each, and I only really used one. I tried the metal wheels too also, and I didn't think that they did as good a job. I hated having to cut this little Craftsman tag off the lathe, but I knew there was going to be a big pile of rust underneath it, so it had to go. And unfortunately, I still have not been able to find one. So if anyone finds one like that, just, I guess, send me a link. Once I got all those old layers of paint taken off the cast iron, I am ready to spray the bottom with a gloss black spray paint. I'm mostly sure that this is not going to have an issue sticking. And once I finish that, I'm able to paint the main body of the lathe. I decided to go with a forest green. This one's a premix color from Rust-Oleum that I got at the Big Orange place. I thought about going with a spray-on, but I really didn't want to get a ton of overspray on the rails that I just spent a bunch of time sanding smooth. The painting process altogether was pretty satisfying. Watching that gross, dirty-looking cast iron go from that to, well, this really helps. I spent some time buffing all the old plated parts to give it that old shine that they used to have. And out of all the processes that are more on the laborious side, I really enjoy polishing. It's just very satisfying for me. Now that I'm done restoring the lathe itself, I can move on to the stand. I designed the stand to be able to collapse, be easily moved around, and stand on its side to save space while I'm not using it. Here's what I was able to come up with based on my criteria. Now, do I think I'm the best designer in the world? No, obviously not, but I will say, I think this is going to work pretty well. And here's just a little fun animation I made to show how the legs fold. The first thing that I need to do to build this is mill up this dimensional lumber that I bought. Now, I can already hear people saying how bad box store lumber is, but for what I was able to build this for, it's really hard to beat. Once I was able to face and joint one edge, I can now take it over the table saw where I will cut off the factory edges since, well, it is dimensional lumber and it does look like garbage. Here I can rip them to my desired width of 3 inches to like 8 separate pieces. Now, if you were paying any attention at all there, you would notice that I did basically everything wrong. I didn't have an outfeed set up, so gravity started taking over on the board. I was pushing down hard, and once I got it through the blade, it slipped, and my hand got close, but not close enough to say I almost cut off my finger. Anyways, don't do what I did. Have an outfeed. That could have been bad. And, of course, this took quite a while and was a little difficult from time to time since I originally started with 10-foot 2x8 boards. Then, all that was left was to run everything through the planer till I was at my desired thickness. I tried recording the planing of these in a hyperlapse, and my phone died while I was doing it. But it was about 40 minutes to plane these. And now that my lumber is all milled and looking just wonderful, I can start the process of cutting everything to length and cutting the half-lap joints that I'm going to use for pretty much everything on this. I'm going to start with the main body, or this section of the lathe stand. This area right here is nothing more than just protection for the motor and a better location to place the wheels that will eventually go on there. Now, I don't have a very good way to do the half laps other than to use this sled that I made, so that's just what I'm going to have to do. I also don't have a square tooth blade, so I'm just going to have to make do with what I have. A dado would be really nice here, but I'd need a new sled for that, so I don't want to ruin this one. Maybe another day. I was not in the mindset of being 100% accurate here because I was in the mindset of just getting it done because I was excited to be able to use it. So some of the joints ended up a bit sloppy, but this is for me, so I have no intention of getting rid of it anytime soon. If it was client work, I would do better. Now that all my pieces are cut and the joints are looking somewhat decent, I can start the process of gluing everything together. Now, it might look like I was really going to be able to glue this up easily. You know, do the front and then the back, and then glue those together with these little short 9-inch blocks. No, I did this bit first. I regret doing it that way, and obviously past Jake has the critical thinking skills of a rock. But that's how we learn, right? Right? Teddy Roosevelt once said, "The only man who never makes a mistake is the man who never does anything." I tend to think this way a lot about my mistakes, and that's because I make a lot of mistakes. Lots of learning around here. Because I hate myself, I made these legs somewhat complicated. Each leg is made up of 2 pieces, the first being the leg itself, and the second is a stopper. So when they fold out, they have more surface area to connect to. Also, half flaps on these, and oh yeah, it's all at a 15-degree angle, with half flaps on the angles. You may be thinking to yourself, how are you going to cut these legs at 15 degrees accurately on Grandpa's table saw? The simple answer is, I'm going to do a quick prayer and just send it. And lo and behold, it actually worked. This little angle gauge for this table saw is actually kind of accurate. All I need to do now is glue and wait for everything to dry. Then I can sand it all and take my trim router to make nice edges on these. Man, I just love how fast a trim router and a round over bit can make everything look so much better. Unfortunately, the sanding, however, does not stop there. I have to sand every square inch of this thing multiple times to get a good finish on it. However much everything else was going well, I decided that we had to spice some things up a little bit by messing something up. On this leg, I glued on the stopper piece in the wrong direction, which would make it completely useless. My solution for fixing it is to take a chisel on the glue line and just beat it with a hammer until it eventually falls off. And then I'll clean it up and glue it back on the right way. Boy, I have so much fun around here. After hours of sanding, I quickly drill the holes and recesses for the wheels. These wheels specifically are for wheelchairs, and I bought them on Amazon. And would you look at that? It looks like I might have some decent ideas from time to time. I just had to test it out a little bit. Well, it's time to apply some finish to all these parts and make these look like $32. It's cheap stuff, I don't know what to tell you. Anyways, we're looking pretty good, so I can fade over to the... Oh, would you look at that? I can actually mount the legs. For these, I'm just going to use carriage bolts and lock nuts to make sure that they're loose enough to move, but that they won't get any looser as I use it. I need to mount the motor, and I didn't have the foresight to measure anything before I cut the wood. So I'm just going to cut away a bit of this with the jigsaw. Fun times. But I just had to screw on this little bit of angle iron with the holes. Really not that hard. Works well. Nice and strong. Once that is mounted, I can start wiring everything into this electrical box that I made on Fusion. May have put too many mounting holes on there, but I used them all anyways. Now for the cost breakdowns. Free isn't always free, and with how expensive the electric motor was, I'm still happy with the price. Going down my list, we start with the motor at $173.11. This should basically last forever though, so I'm pretty happy with it. The cost of the lumber comes out to $32.65 for the stand and $15.30 for the top. The power switch was $16 and the wheels were $17.30. Paint came out to $31.07, which I barely used, probably used it on another project. And the rest was another $19.29 for a grand total of $318.78. And for a 40-inch lathe, that's really good. Now, I was really good at keeping my time for this one, but I'm still just going to show the table and give the total time since I am just using this for myself. The total time came out to 18.4 hours. For this video, I did a lot more commentary, which took me a long time to come up with. I also skipped over some parts that I didn't really think needed to be included. But if you're not in love with the commentary, I made a no music, no commentary video that's going to come out 3 days after this one. And if it gets enough views, I'll likely keep doing both. The no commentary video is also much longer at 31 minutes. So anything I didn't show you here, you should see there. If you like the video though, give it a like. And I will respond to all comments, so give me your thoughts. Was it worth restoring this 70-year-old lathe?